Hello and welcome to the EduphoreIAS, the live Hindu class analysis. Today the date is 8th of September and we are starting as usually first with the 6th of September's questions, and then after that we'll be discussing the today's Hindu newspaper itself. Fine. So let us start with the today's questions. First question is the easier one. In fact, we discussed this article, and that is special constitutional protections under Article 371 relates to. Fine. So what is the correct answer here? Okay. So remember Article 371 and there was another Article 371Z. Okay. Z something. So of course this 371 is directly related to the Nagaland. So under 371 to 370G, not J but G, 371G, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H like this. So we have this much under 371 A to G clauses which relates to one of the states of northeastern India. Okay. So here this 371A is directly related to Nagaland, remember. So correct answer is A. The next is the recent Johannesburg summit is termed as a turning point in modern history. Critically examine for 10 marker in 150 words. So Johannesburg summit, first of all you need to understand this, that if you are talking about Johannesburg summit means directly we are referring to the 15th BRICS summit, this meeting, fine, which was concluded in Johannesburg, South Africa. Fine. So there was an article that we discussed on 6th of September, day before yesterday. Fine. And that article was in particular related to this summit. Fine. That's why this is it. This is the question. So this article was of course written by Talmiz Ahmed, happened to be former ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Oman and UAE. So implications of the expansion of BRICS, that was actually this title of the article, that is implications of the expansion of BRICS. So again following the same structure, that is I, B and C, intro, body and conclusion. Fine. So these are the three things we need to follow: intro, body and conclusion. So the implications of the expansion of BRICS, remember we all know that, and we discussed too, that now the BRICS are not just 5 nation body but now it's 11, and from 1st of January 2024 officially these 6 members going to become the official members of BRICS, and these 6 members we listed out is Iran, Saudi Arabia and UAE from West Asia, Egypt and Ethiopia from Africa, and Argentina from Latin America or Southern America. Fine. So these are the 6 in total. So for intro part, you can start with that the recently concluded 15th BRICS summit in Johannesburg announced that the 5-member grouping now going to be increased to the 6-member block or group. This group is going to be expanded to 11-member nations. Fine. This somehow underlines the growing importance of BRICS in today's geostrategic sphere. Fine. This is how, since the question is of 10 markers only, so therefore we need to just write at max 3 lines of introduction. After that, the body part. So in body part you can mention all these details whatever we have from this 15th BRICS summit. Fine. For example, you could have also mentioned that it was reported earlier that around 40 countries have shown interest in BRICS, with 22 having submitted formal applications. Fine. Apart from this, then in the body part we need to mention also that first point is from 2009 BRICS has met annually at summit level. Summit level means the heads of the state or the governments are actually participating on the annual basis. Fine. And the second aid, this BRICS has spawned 2 major institutions. Fine. And one is NDB, that is New Development Bank, which has been projected as an alternative to the Western-led IMF or the World Bank, you can say World Bank. and the other is contingent reserve arrangement, CRA, that is meant to take care of the short-term balance of payments crisis of the member nations. Fine. So these are the two contributions of the BRICS. Apart from this, BRICS also, BRICS members are united in their dissatisfaction with the West-dominated international institutions that has emerged after the Second World War, particularly the World Bank, IMF, UNGA, that is United Nations General Assembly, or particularly, apart from this, the recent one, the World Trade Organizations. Apart from this, the next point could be BRICS challenges this West-led order. It promotes intra-BRICS economic and political cooperation, builds institutions outside Western control, and agitates robustly for wide-ranging reforms to accommodate the presence of present and interest of emerging economies. So this could be another point. Apart from that, you can also show with the help of either a diagram like a pie chart or a flow chart, where you can mention that the BRICS will have now in the expanded form, now BRICS will be having 46% of the world population. Then like this, something like 46% of now world population in full. Then GDP, you can also mention this. You can also mention the share in their shares, 11 member shares in the world trade. Find that the GDP will go in terms of PPP to 37%. Fine. So either you can use for this sake pie chart or a flow chart, the data point. So this is how the expanded BRICS are going to look like. Apart from this, an addition of geostrategic value as well, because the new BRICS members will bring considerable geostrategic value to the grouping. Those from West Asia are already closely tied to BRICS members in terms of crude oil exports and all. Fine. So this is going to bring geostrategic angle to this as well. And the outlook for regional and global affairs, the new BRICS members, particularly those from West Asia, naturally fit this political and economic framework. Fine, you can quote here the example of Saudi Arabia, you can quote here the example of UAE, fine. And of course, ultimately, in conclusion, you can say that while Western writers continue to harp on the emerging global binary divide and the new Cold War era, India and other BRICS members reject this short-sighted view or the myopic view and insist on asserting their strategic autonomy in a multipolar world order. With member nations demanding that their voices be heard and their interests respected, it is not surprising then that a recent media report describes the Johannesburg Summit or the 15th BRICS Summit as a turning point in the modern history. Fine. So that's it, how you can conclude your answer with intro, body, and finally the conclusion or the way forward. Fine. Okay, so that's it about the day before yesterday, the 6th of September questions. Let us now quickly start with today's discussion. We have lots of things to discuss today from the Hindu, and here comes your front page on the first page. Okay, so this is the front page of the today's Hindu. Delhi may turn venue for dialogue on reviving Black Sea Green Initiative. So Black Sea Green Initiative जो है, that is under this initiative actually the Russia यूक्रेन जो कन्फ्लिक्ट चल रही है उसमें ये था कि जो रशिया है वो अलाउ करेगा फॉर शिपमेंट ऑफ ग्रेन्स स्पेशली व्हीट एंड सनफ्लावर ऑयल that is shipped to the world from Ukraine. So it will allow the passage of the ships through the Black Sea. But recently, when we have discussed as well that Turkey president, Erdogan Saab met to Mr. Putin. So in that meeting, Mr. Putin refused to actually extend this initiative further without having any concrete, these promises from the Western world. Fine. So therefore, now the issue is now UN Secretary General जो है Antonio Guterres, उनके एजेंडा पे ये है during G20 summit, on the sidelines of G20 summit, he will try to negotiate with the other member countries, including the Western these countries, and taking on board the different stakeholders in this, and again to revive this Black Sea Grain Initiative. Fine. So therefore, this is how this could be discussed on the sidelines of G20 summit. Okay. Second is African Union, a group of 55 nations from African continent to join G20 as Sherpas reach a deal. So Sherpas का क्या मतलब? Sherpas, remember, किसी भी like WTO में Sherpa या G20 के लिए Sherpa. So Sherpas are basically the representatives of the heads of the government of the state. Like for example, हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर हैं, उनके जो शेरपा हैं, that is called Indian Sherpa. ठीक है कि representative हैं for carrying out the negotiations. ठीक है, with the different the other Sherpas or other countries or other countries representatives. ठीक है, so European Union के बाद African Union, this is a second group or organization you can say, which is going to be the part of G20 in in this year's summit. Fine. So this will mean that the 55 member AU will join the European Union as the only two regional bodies in the G20. So G20 में 19 countries, you know, plus one is EU, and now that's why it's called G20, and now it's going to be African Union. So another question is whether this G20 going to be renamed as G21 after addition of this African Union, or it will remain G20 only. So that for that we will have to wait, fine, as the things unfold. Okay. Next is Prime Minister took part in the East Asian Summit, particularly the ASEAN and Indian Summit in Jakarta, Indonesia. Capital Jakarta, of course, of Indonesia. So Prime Minister Modi has presented 12-point proposal to expand Indian and ASEAN relations. So this 12-point proposal becomes important for us from the exam point of view. Okay. So what all this includes? So this 12-point agenda somewhat or proposal includes, or encompasses areas from the connectivity, trade, digital transformation. Even he called for building rules-based post-COVID world order. Fine. Apart from this, our Prime Minister also laid focus on he announced the establishment of a multi-modal connectivity and economic corridor linking Southeast Asia, India, West Asia, and Europe, and offer to share New Delhi's digital public infrastructure stack with ASEAN partners like our UPI and all. Right? After that, you see what he proposed. So his proposal included the fight against terrorism, terror financing, cyber disinformation, and for raising issues being faced by the global South in multilateral fora. Also, while addressing this East Asia Summit, East Asia hai kya? So it's a summit is a forum in the Asia Pacific region to deal with the issues relating to security and defense. Remember what exactly is the East Asian Summit meant for? So it is a forum in the Asia Pacific especially region to deal with the issue relating to security. Okay. So Prime Minister called for joint efforts to strengthen sovereignty and territorial integrity of all nations. Even as he said, India believes a code of conduct for South China Sea should be effective and compliant with the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Sea. जैसा कि साउथ चाइना अभी चाइना ने जो स्टैंडर्ड मैप अपना रिलीज की थी चाइना ने, तो उसमें दिखाया गया था जैसे अरुणाचल प्रदेश को या हमारे जो अक्साई चीन जो एरिया है, जो पार्ट है, दैट इज दिस पार्ट ऑफ लद्दाख समवट, सो इंटीग्रल पार्ट ऑफ दिस जम्मू एंड कश्मीर. सो इन दोनों ही रीजन्स को चाइना ने अपने मैप में शो किया था. नॉट जस्ट दिस बट इवन साउथ चाइना को भी अपनी टेरिटरी में दिखाया था. तो साउथ चाइना के ऊपर चाइना का वो रहता है कि दिस बिलोंग्स टू, एक्चुअली साउथ चाइना से बिलोंग्स टू एक्सक्लूसिवली चाइना, बट फिलीपींस अदर कंट्रीज लाइक Malaysia and all these countries has reservation related to this viewpoint of China. So इसीलिए प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने कहा कि कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट लाने की जरूरत है रिलेटेड टू साउथ चाइना सी, सो दैट कि वहां पे वो जो कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट है दैट शुड बी इन लाइन विद द यूएन क्लॉज, यूनाइटेड नेशंस कन्वेंशन ऑन द लॉज ऑफ द सी. ठीक है. सो G20 के रिलेटेड तैयारियां सारी हो चुकी है. ग्रैंड शो भारत मंडपम इन प्रगति मैदान, ठीक है, जो वहां पे होना है ये. So those from Delhi, please do have a look at it. Okay. Next we have this from next we have this news from states, of course. So here you see lots of politics. Need not to go into that. We're focusing on something important from these pages, but have a look at at least once. Indian Coast Guard rescues 10 stranded fishermen. See, that's a good thing. Apart from this, okay. So clear illegal constructions in ESG, that is ecologically sensitive zone, buffer zone of बांदीपुर. बांदीपुर टाइगर रिजर्व, बस इतना याद रखना कहाँ पे है, इन कर्नाटका. ठीक है, बस यहाँ से हमारे लिए इतना ही काम का है. मेजर सिक्योरिटी ब्रीच रिपोर्टेड फ्रॉम इदुक्की डैम. अब इदुक्की डैम कहाँ पे है, तो दैट इज इन केरला. पता होना चाहिए आपको ये सब. ठीक है, यहाँ से बस हमारे लिए इतना ही है, सारी न्यूज़ पढ़ने की ज़रूरत नहीं. ओके. Finally, here we have the editorial page, and editorial के दोनों ही articles important है. The first one is related to the disappearing languages, vanishing voices, or extinction of the languages, especially the mother tongues. Remember, on an average, we even at an individual level we can skip. We can like for example, we can speak 2-3 languages. For example, English. Everyone of majority of them. Hindi. Let us say Punjabi from Punjab means a regional language or your mother tongue. Fine. Apart from this, you can have additional languages as well. So therefore, you see that like a diversity, like a diverse culture in India, we have diversity of languages as well, isn't it? Tribal people speaking their own languages. Fine. So, but over time, what has been noticed that somewhat these languages getting extinct, like the species gets extinct. जैसे हमने IUCN की रेड डेटा लिस्ट की बात करते हैं कि उसमें ये स्पीसीज जो है एंडेंजर्ड कैटेगरी में है और एक्सटिंक्ट हो चुकी हैं या critically endangered है, something like that. So somewhat on the similar kind of lines, we have disappearing or extinct languages and vanishing voices. This is what he is writing today. So in this article, author says that English is one of the language which is spoken widely across the world. Fine, and this is one of the simpler and easier. So it would be better if the whole world speaks English, because every people would be able to understand. Alongside that, it would be easier to conversate and all. But somewhat he underlines the importance of mother languages and the linguistic diversity as well. Fine. So you see, but one thing he raises question is, this leads to the question, why cannot all people in the world speak in the same language? It would be so much simpler and strengthen our power as a united human force. Fine. But he says that of course लोग जो cities में हैं, जो urbanized people हैं, वो तो चलो English बोल सकते हैं, but what about those who are residing in the remote areas, backward areas? Fine. So of course English becomes impediment, or language becomes an impediment in the remote areas, especially if we talk about the English. Here he gives a biblical story of the Tower of Babel, so उसमें ज़्यादा जानने की ज़रूरत नहीं है हमें, but you can see language according to him is a vehicle to transfer information, ideas and emotions. Indeed, a forecast of language extinctions. So almost 7,000 distinct languages are spoken as mother tongue across the world. 7,000, remember. But these languages are shrinking rapidly. An interesting mathematical model published in the Economic Journal which forecasts the extinction of 40% of the languages with less than 35,000 speakers within 100 years. कि last 100 years में अगर हम देखें तो almost out of 7,000, 40% of the languages means somewhere 2,800 languages had already been extincted because languages with less than, because उनके जो speakers थे those were less than 35,000 within 100 years. By extinction it is meant, of course we all know that the languages will no longer be spoken as a mother tongue or as the principal language. So in essence diversity of languages is shrinking with time. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है. Mother tongues of about half the people in the world belong to a pool of 10 most spoken languages. Language diversity faces a grave threat, and today English is the most widely spoken language of the world. British colonial rule helped spread the language. ठीक बात है, अंग्रेजों ने ही स्प्रेड किया अंग्रेजी को. This shrinking in the diversity of languages, like we talk about the diversity in the culture. So similar, on the similar grounds, even language, linguistic, or linguism is important, element of the culture as well. Fine. On the basis of language also you differentiate, or you have cultural homogeneity or heterogeneity, fine, or diversity you can say. So their extinction are also related to the migration of people. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है, related to migration of people to countries which have a common language. For example, those who migrate, let us say, यहाँ पे mention भी है कि when people migrate, there is a pressure to shift to the dominant language spoken in the country. ठीक है, कि जब आप अपनी एरिया से कहीं और माइग्रेट करते हो तो there is a general pressure, or you prefer to actually speak the language of the dominant class, ठीक है, or the majority where you live in order to capitalize on the social and economic advantages offered by the new place. ठीक बात है. So in this process first generation migrants become bilingual. ठीक है, अगर आपको हिंदी आती है साथ में आपने इंग्लिश भी बोलना स्टार्ट कर दिया, ठीक है, लेट अस से आप इंडिया से यूएस चले गए, so the first generation migrants becomes bilingual. Fine. But what about the next generation? The next generation has a weaker grasp of its mother tongue. ठीक है, अब जो suppose जाके फर्स्ट जनरेशन माइग्रेंट है यूएस चला गया, तो नाउ द नेक्स्ट जनरेशन ऑफ दैट जनरेशन ऑफ कोर्स, देन जो बच्चे होंगे उनके फर्दर, if they are they were born in US, so of course they would be more in sync with this English and less with the Hindi. ठीक है, so this is what he is saying, that the next generation has a weaker grasp of its mother tongue, and the third generation may no longer speak or understand their grandparents or great grandparents at all. ठीक बात है. India is a good example, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ जबरदस्त डाइवर्सिटी है लैंग्वेजेस के बेस पे. With increasing migration to English speaking countries, English now has 340 million native speakers in our country, that is 34 crores, and more than 1.2 billion second language speakers, means 1.2 billion जो लोग हैं out of 1.4 billion they can speak second language as well. With much scope for further growth, one wonders what would happen to Hindi with an estimated 58.6 million second language speakers in the world. तो हिंदी की अगर आप इंग्लिश की बात देखो तो ऑलमोस्ट 58 करोड़ जो वर्ल्ड में मिलियन सेकंड लैंग्वेज स्पीकर्स हैं वर्ल्ड में, जो सेकंड लैंग्वेज इनकी है दैट इज हिंदी. Would it grow to the level of English? Seems to be, I mean, of course you could have understand कि Hindi can become, or Hindi can take the level of English. It seems to be difficult to say here. On the language index now, we have one of the language index by Greenberg. So index of linguistic diversity, ठीक है, or we also call it language diversity index, where the probability that two people selected from a population at random will have a different mother tongues, it ranges from 0, everyone has the same mother tongue, to 1, no two people have the same mother tongue. So obviously countries that have people with a smaller number of mother tongues have a lower LDI, linguistic, this diversity index, than countries with a large number of mother tongues. यहाँ पे देखो यूके की अगर बात करें तो इट हैज एन एलडीआई लिंग्विस्टिक डाइवर्सिटी इंडेक्स ऑफ 0.139 व्हेन कंपेयर्ड टू 0.93 फॉर इंडिया. ठीक है, सो इंटरेस्टिंगली ऑल्दो द प्रीडोमिनेंट लैंग्वेजेस इन द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स इज इंग्लिश, एज इन द यूनाइटेड किंगडम, ड्यू टू द सिग्निफिकेंट प्रेजेंस ऑफ माइग्रेंट्स फ्रॉम डिफरेंट कंट्रीज इवन फ्रॉम इंडिया, द एलडीआई ऑफ द यूएस इज जस्ट 0.353. राइट, कि और भी लोग हैं जो बोलते हैं डिफरेंट लैंग्वेजेस. So in terms of LDI, the three lowest ranking countries are Haiti, Cuba and Samoa, while the top ranking three countries are Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu and the Solomon Island. So LDI के हिसाब से अगर देखोगे तो टॉप 3 एंड बॉटम 3 ये हैं. But ILD demonstrates that globally linguistic diversity declined by 20% over the period 1970 to 2005. So in the last 35 years, 70 to 2005, almost 20% of the decline has been registered in the linguistic diversity, okay, because of extinction of languages. बट कैलकुलेटिंग द इंडेक्स फ्रॉम अ सैंपल, ऑफ कोर्स कह रहे हैं कि 7,000 लैंग्वेजेस की बात करें वर्ल्ड में, उसमें से 1,000 लैंग्वेजेस को अगर आप सैंपल भी बनाते हो और फिर भी उसके बेस पे अगर ये आप कंक्लूजन ड्रॉ करते हो, तो इट कैन नॉट बी टर्म्ड एज अ गुड सर्वे, because the index actually tries to understand the distribution of speakers among all the spoken languages of the world. What has been found is that the distribution is becoming greatly uneven with the passage of time. एक बात है क्योंकि ओवर द टाइम लैंग्वेजेस जो हैं ख़त्म होती जा रही हैं, तो अनइवन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हमें देखने को मिलेगी अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड. So what we see is that the greater number of people in the world are transitioning to just a few dominant languages at the expense of several smaller ones, resulting in a loss of linguistic diversity where finally some of the languages are becoming extinct. Language is not only a vehicle for communication to express ideas and emotions, but it also carries cultural values and indigenous knowledge. Okay? And what will be the implications? So extinction of language will only result in shrinking cultural diversity and an increase in cultural homogenization in place of cultural heterogenization. कि कल्चरल, मैंने जैसे कहा कि कल्चरल डाइवर्सिटी जो है उसकी एक इंपॉर्टेंट इंग्रेडिएंट और जो एलिमेंट है दैट इज लैंग्वेज एक्चुअली. सो जैसे जैसे लैंग्वेजेस एक्सटिंक्ट होती जा रही हैं, ठीक है, नंबर्स कम होती जा रही हैं, डाइवर्सिटी कम होती जा रही है, वैसे वैसे हम ये देखेंगे कल्चरल होमोजेनिटी के तरफ हम बढ़ रहे हैं, ना कि कल्चरली हम हेट्रोजेनियस पॉपुलेशन है. ठीक है, सो दैट कि मोर एंड मोर नंबर ऑफ पीपल जो है वो एक ही लैंग्वेज में कन्वर्स कर रहे हैं. So the situation in India and need for strategies. According to a report published by UNESCO in 2018, 42 languages are heading towards extinction in India, and these were spoken by less than 10,000 people. Okay? So according to the norm set by UNESCO, any language spoken by only 10,000 people is potentially endangered. So most dying languages are from the indigenous tribal groups spread across India. क्योंकि ओवर द टाइम देखोगे आप, यहाँ आज भी अगर देखोगे तो जो हमारे यहाँ ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स हैं, एक्चुअली ट्राइब्स हैं, आपको शायद ही कोई ट्राइबल ग्रुप मिले जिसकी पॉपुलेशन आपकी मिल जाएगी. वैसे तो आई मीन मेजॉरिटी जो भील्स हैं, जो ये जो डोमिनेंट है स्पेशली मध्य प्रदेश में एंड टू सम एक्सटेंट इवन राजस्थान एंड ऑल, बट जो स्पेशली अगर हम पर्टिकुलरली वल्नरेबल ट्राइब्स की बात करें जो 75 है, तो उनमें से एक भी ट्राइबल ग्रुप आपको ऐसे नहीं मिलेगी जिसकी पॉपुलेशन 10,000 तक हो. ठीक है, सो सारे ही इस डेफिनेशन में आ जाते हैं कि द एक्चुअली पॉपुलेशन स्पीकिंग द 10,000, और लेट अस से जो पॉपुलेशन उस लैंग्वेज को बोलने वाली है पर्टिकुलर ट्राइबल लैंग्वेज की, वो कहीं ना कहीं 10,000 से कम है. तो समहाउ दिस फिट द यूनेस्को पैरामीटर्स. The world is very concerned about biodiversity and is alarmed by the loss of a species. Different languages can be compared to distinct species as well. Any loss of language is not only a loss of linguistic diversity, but also a loss in terms of associated cultural variations, opinions, views, and knowledge. So it is time to evolve ideas to arrest the decline of language on the larger global canvas. The world must at least try to find ways and means to preserve some of its endangered languages. And it is also this LSA, that is LSA is actually American linguistic, what to say, here it is mentioned that it is somewhat working in the direction of preserving this linguistic or diversity actually, or the extinction of this languages, especially the mother tongues. Fine. So therefore you can see there is a group called Linguistic Society of America, LSA. So it is working in this direction in order to preserve the this extinction of languages or the endangered languages. So it is doing an admirable job in trying to learn about these endangered languages. It is also making video tapes, audio tapes, and written records of the languages along with their translation. So it is hoped that other institutions will emulate this and act to reduce the disappearance of languages in whichever way they can. Of course, even at the Indian, as a country level, we need to, preserve our this linguistic diversity Next article is very important, finding Seoul in the Indo-Pacific. Seoul is the capital of Republic of Korea or South Korea. So how this South Korea can help India? In this article, he in a point format very well, very beautifully explains that how domestically India can benefit from the this closeness with the Republic of Korea or the South Korea, and how even South Korea can help alongside US, Australia and Japan to India, especially in the Indo-Pacific. Right? So quickly have a look at it. So recently what happened, the historic Camp David summit took place on August 18 in US. Camp David is actually a military base in the state of Maryland, US. So this year's among the leaders of three countries that participated in this, of course, was the United States, Japan and the Republic of Korea, जिसको कि आप South Korea भी बोल देते हो. The other Korea is with, of course, Mr. Putin meeting soon. So this Camp David summit somewhat marks the new beginning of the strategic partnership among these three traditional allies. And alongside that, we are marking, we and Korea commemorating the 50th year of our diplomatic relations. So this Camp David summit and a refreshingly new strategic thinking in Seoul offers a unique opportunity for New Delhi to reimagine its relations with South Korea, especially in the Indo-Pacific. Okay. So along with Japan, the US, with whom we have a good relations at present, the ROK, that is Republic of Korea, has the potential to emerge as a key piece in India's Indo-Pacific strategy. Fine, but इसी के साथ हमारे लिए भी important हो जाता है कि we view this prospect of the India and ROK, that is Republic of Korea, strategic partnership in the broader context of recent geopolitical developments in East Asia region particularly. So here is an outline of them, some of them, that how this strategic partnership can unfold in future, or what should be the actually outline of this. So the significance of the Camp David meet. ये जो तीन countries, US, Japan and South Korea की जो meet हुई है Camp David in US. So what is the significance of this first? So there are some significance. इसके base पे, इसके background में फिर हम ये समझने की कोशिश करेंगे कि how these three countries, especially Korea, can help India domestically as well as in diplomatically as well, especially in the Indo-Pacific. So one of the most significant developments in the region has been the South Korea, Japan and US trilateral meeting in the US or the Camp David summit last month. Now, what are the significance? First, it indicates a much needed repair in Seoul-Tokyo relations. ठीक है कि साउथ कोरिया एंड जो जापान के रिलेशंस हैं वो कहीं ना कहीं रिपेयर हो रही हैं, स्ट्रेंथन हो रही है. This positive bilateral development is a function of recognition of the changing regional security environment by the three countries. So this could, along with the AUKUS, that is Australia, UK and US, the Quad, that is India, Japan, Australia and the US, or the Chip 4 alliance, that is US, Japan, Taiwan and South Korea, lead to a strengthened US-led alliance structure, though disposed to reflect the multipolar urges of the contemporary international system in East Asia. So all these you can see कि ये कहीं ना कहीं इनमें एक कंट्री जरूर है, be it AUKUS, be it Quad और be it Chip 4 alliance. ठीक है, या कहीं कहीं पे आपको US एंड जापान जो है या साउथ कोरिया साथ में भी दिखेंगे. फॉर एग्जांपल चिप 4 अलायंस, क्वाड में जापान, यूएस, ऑस्ट्रेलिया भी है एंड इंडिया तो है ही है, एंड देन ऑकस, यूएस, यूके एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया. सो समहाउ यू कैन सी द this overlapping of membership among these three groups of the different countries. So this is the first importance कि how this this bilateral and multilateral relations with each other can help the other countries. The second significance is the summit has the potential to set South Korea on a new strategic directions in the Indo-Pacific with improved relation with Tokyo, more synergy with the American view on China and enhanced engagement of the Indo-Pacific. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है कि कहीं ना कहीं पहले से क्या स्टांस था साउथ कोरियन की कि चाइना के साथ ट्रेड बहुत ज़्यादा इनकी एक्सपोर्ट्स पर, तो समवॉट डिपेंडेंसी थी कि अब ये कुछ भी अगर आपको कोई ऐसा कुछ भी ऐसे स्ट्रेटेजिक रिलेशंस और रिलेटेड से डिसीजंस आपको लेने हैं तो कई बार सोचना पड़ता है कि आपकी चाइना पे डिपेंडेंसी बहुत है, बट सम व्हाट जो अभी के प्रेजेंट दिस प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ कोरिया है वो कहीं ना कहीं इस चीज को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं, ठीक है। बिकॉज अब क्लोजनेस अगर आप देखोगे तो चाइना से कहीं ना कहीं, जैसे हम यूएस के काफी क्लोज हैं, क्लोजर विद द यूएस, जापान के साथ भी अच्छी खासी बॉन्डिंग है, तो इसी तरीके से कोरिया भी अपने रिलेशन जो इम्प्रूव कर रहा है विद यूएस के साथ तो ठीक ठाक है ही है, जापान के साथ भी। एंड ऑफ कोर्स द ओनली सिंगल यू कैन से इन ऑल दिस थिंग, यू कैन से जो एनिमी तो नहीं कह सकते, बट समवॉट चाइना इज द ओनली केसिंग पॉइंट अगेंस्ट विच ऑल ऑफ दिस कंट्रीज यू कैन से कमिंग क्लोजर एंड ऑल। सो third significance marked by a strategic shift in Seoul's traditional approach of not offending China at any cost। ये मैं ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन कर चुका हूँ कि नाउ हिस्टोरिकली ऐसा था कि नहीं, हमारा भी अप्रोच ये था कि नहीं चाइना को नाराज नहीं करना या यूएस को नाराज नहीं करना या रशिया को नहीं करना, बट नाउ यू सी द चेंजिंग ट्रेंड्स, ठीक है। जैसे रिक्वायरमेंट है, जैसे हमारे इंटरेस्ट जहाँ पे हमारी मीट होती है, उस हिसाब से हम डिसीजंस ले रहे हैं इन इंटरनेशनल अफेयर्स। तो क्योंकि ऐसा था कि बीजिंग यू कैन सी अराउंड 20% ऑफ द कोरियाज टोटल एक्सपोर्ट्स गो टू चाइना, तो इस वजह से थोड़ी दिक्कत होती है कि हाँ भाई अच्छी खासी ट्रेड रिलेशंस हैं, ऐसे हम खराब नहीं कर सकते। सो न्यू थिंकिंग अपीयर्स टू इंडिकेट द व्यू दैट ट्रेड डिपेंडेंस ऑन चाइना डज नॉट मीन पैसिविटी टुवर्ड्स ग्रोइंग चाइनीज मिलिट्री प्रेजेंस इन द रीजन, स्पेशली इन द ईस्ट एशियन रीजन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट। तो इन सब कंट्री को, बीट जापान, बीट कोरिया, इन सबको दिक्कत तो है ही है समवॉट। ईस्ट चाइना सी भी है, नॉट टू फॉरगेट, हम सिर्फ साउथ चाइना सी की बात करते हैं, तो इसलिए। बट अब ये देखने को मिल रहा है कि ट्रेड डिपेंडेंसी डजंट मीन एनी काइंड ऑफ पैसिविटी टुवर्ड्स अ ग्रोइंग चाइनीज मिलिट्री प्रेजेंस इन द रीजन। सो इसलिए साउथ कोरिया अब चाइना के अगेंस्ट भी अपने रिलेशन जो है बैकग्राउंड में चाइना को रख के स्ट्रेंथन कर रहा विद दिस यूएस एंड जापान। द फोर्थ सिग्निफिकेंस इज there is today a keen desire in Republic of Korea to join the Quad grouping। जो Quad grouping है 4 लोगों की, जैसे इंडिया, यूएस, जापान एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया, तो कहीं ना कहीं साउथ कोरिया ये भी चाहता था कि, और keen desire है इन साउथ कोरिया to join this Quad block, but somewhat Seoul has wanted it for some time, but it was unsure whether Japan or Tokyo would support its bid given lingering bitterness from historical memories between the two countries। So इन दोनों की historical relations कुछ खास अच्छी नहीं रही है, स्पेशली साउथ कोरिया एंड जापान की, इसलिए ये डाउटफुल था, आई मीन डाउट में था कोरिया की कहीं ना कहीं हो सकता है कि क्वाड की बिड में जापान सपोर्ट ना करें, बिकॉज जापान इज वन ऑफ द मेंबर्स ऑफ क्वाड। बट नाउ सिंस ties are improve, relations getting better between this Korea and Japan, so somehow this Korea can expect Japan to help it, or of course support its membership for the Quad, okay, Quad Plus that is going to be held next year. Finally, the last point in the significance, there is a new foreign policy enthusiasm in Seoul today. President Yoon Suk Yeol has declared that the main goal of his foreign policy would be to make South Korea a global pivotal state. So pivotal is something around which the other things revolve. तो इसलिए ग्लोबल पाइवटल स्टेट बनाना जो प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ साउथ कोरिया है उनकी मेन जो है मंशा है। ओके, so this geopolitical context somehow provides a unique opportunity for India and ROK to enhance their strategic partnership in the 50th year of their diplomatic relationship. So there are a number of reasons why Republic of Korea is a natural partner for India in the Indo-Pacific. For one, so what are these different reasons that why we termed that Korea jo hai, it's a natural partner for India, especially in the Indo-Pacific. So there are reasons. Number one reason is ROK's location itself, that is Korea की जो location है in the Indo-Pacific close to China, while being a US ally provides India with a like-minded strategic partner, क्योंकि हम भी US के close हैं, कोरिया भी US के close है, so of course somewhat like-minded partnership. Second reason is for both ROK and India, the rise of China and its unilateral attempt at reordering Asian security architecture are of great concern, even if the two sides hesitate in clearly articulating the China threat. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है कि कॉमन जो एग्रेसर है दोनों ही कंट्रीज के लिए, बीट इन ईस्ट एशिया और बीट इन दिस our side. So of course, particularly Arunachal and Aksai Chin को अगर हम बात करें तो of course China is the single most common aggressor for both the countries. And third is, for India, Seoul can be an important regional partner at a time when India is close to the US than ever before in its history and is concerned about Chinese intentions and power like never before in the history. So you can see कि of course US के साथ जो हमारी closeness है वो this is something which is never happened ever before in the history, but China के साथ जो हमारी अभी conflict चल रही है, so of course it has never something has never been like this in the history as well. So both the things we need to counter. Defense nuclear reactors as a focus area. Now how apart from Indo-Pacific, this Korea can help India domestically. Fine. So in domestic front, defense sector, nuclear reactors में भी कोरिया जो है help कर सकता है. So there are several areas where the two countries could focus on in order to strengthen their relation. At the political and diplomatic levels, the two sides should consider establishing 2+2 kind of dialogue. 2+2 annual summit dialogue होता है between the foreign ministers and the defense minister. इसीलिए इसको 2+2 बोलते हैं क्योंकि दोनों ही कंट्री के साइड से दो लोग पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं इसमें. 2 ministers, डिफेंस मिनिस्टर एंड फॉरेन अफेयर्स मिनिस्टर और फॉरेन सेक्रेटरी कह सकते हो आप यूएस के सेंस में. तो इंडिया की जो करंटली स्ट्रक्चर है ये और जो 2+2 फॉर्मेट डायलॉग है वो किन किन कंट्रीज के साथ यहाँ पे मेंशन है. दिस इज एन एडिशनल इंफॉर्मेशन फॉर अस. इंडिया करंटली हैज 2+2 डायलॉग्स विद द यूएस, जापान, ऑस्ट्रेलिया एंड रशिया. So author is suggesting, Happymon Jacob ji suggesting that even India should come up with such kind of 2+2 dialogue with Korea as well, right? In order to deepen our strategic relations. The partnership could also benefit from reciprocal visits by the Prime Minister of India and President of US, sorry, not US, but Korea to each other's country. ठीक बात है. Perhaps the two sides could be even more ambitious and explore the possibility of negotiating a South Korea, Japan, India, US initiative on critical and emerging technology. जैसा कि same lines पे, along the lines that India and US has recently in our Prime Minister, when our Prime Minister visited during the International Yoga Day to US. So during that meet, actually US and India concluded the India-US ICT. That is, ICT is what? It's an initiative on critical and emerging technologies. Fine, like robotics, AI and all, even in defense. And defense could be another area where they could strengthen their relationship. South Korea's willingness and ability to cater to India's defense needs within the ambit of India's Make in India program must be utilized. Okay, so Make in India program जो है, especially in the defense sector, can where Korea can help a lot to India. For example, the K9 Vajra and a 155 mm self-propelled howitzer built by Larsen and Turbo with technology from South Korea. Defense is an example in this regard. ठीक है कि कैसे दोनों कंट्री मिलकर काम कर सकती हैं. South Korean built K2 Black Panther tanks could also be co-produced in India for the Indian Army or the third countries. So this is another suggestion. Another area of collaboration still could be in the context of Korean built civilian nuclear reactors. ठीक है, इस सिविलियन पर्पस के लिए न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर्स जो है उसमें भी कहीं ना कहीं उनकी भी बिल्डअप में हेल्प कर सकता है कोरिया इंडिया की. फॉर एग्जांपल, टिल नाउ न्यू दिल्ली हैज नॉट बीन एबल टू इंपोर्ट एनी न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर्स ड्यू टू द डिफिकल्टीज फॉरेन सप्लायर्स हैव विद इंडियाज न्यूक्लियर लायबिलिटी लॉ. यहाँ पे इंडिया ने एक लायबिलिटी लॉ में एक लायबिलिटी क्लॉज डाला है उसमें कि अगर कुछ मिस हैपनिंग होती है तो उसमें जो है कंपनी जो है जो लगा रही है वो पे करेगी. ठीक है, इंश्योरेंस काइंड ऑफ. तो उसकी लायबिलिटी होगी टू मीट एनी काइंड ऑफ एक्सीजेंसी. इस वजह से काफ़ी कंपनीज इंडिया में अभी तक नहीं आ पाई हैं जो सिविल न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर्स लगा सके. So given India's growing need for clean energy and Seoul's remarkable track record in supplying cheaper and faster nuclear reactors to the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia and Central European states, Delhi could consider purchasing Korean-built reactors so as to expand the share of nuclear energy in the country's energy basket. Nuclear energy, ठीक है, renewable energy का part है. If indeed Seoul is open to working within India's liability law and the subsequent assurance given by the India, so ये तभी possible होगा जब Indian liability law जो है, जो मैंने बात की कि इमरजेंसी लाइक अगर मिस हैपनिंग कोई हो जाती है तो उसको मीट करनी पड़ेगी, जो भी कंपनी लगा रही है कॉस्ट बियर करनी पड़ेगी. तो अगर ये एक्सेप्टेबल होता है सियोल को, ठीक है, इसकी कंपनीज को, तो ऑफ कोर्स इस डायरेक्शन में भी दोनों कंट्रीज आगे बढ़ सकती हैं. Now, Republic of Korea, with the new strategic outlook and along with the US, Japan, and Australia, is uniquely placed to help India advance its interests in the Indo-Pacific. Okay, so all of these smaller but very insightful and impactful article, you can see that how South Korea can help India, especially in the Indo-Pacific, and alongside that even domestically. Okay, so this is ओके. नेक्स्ट टेक्स्ट एंड कॉन्टेक्स्ट पे आ जाते हैं. तो हम डिटेल में डिस्कस करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आरबीआई ने अभी एक लेंडिंग गाइडलाइंस रिलेटेड सर्कुलर इशू की है. उसमें ये है अगस्त 18 को इशू की. इसमें ये कहा गया कि जो बोरोवर्स, जैसे आप लोन लेते हो बैंक से, तो दो रेट्स होती हैं जनरली मार्केट में. वन इज कॉल्ड फ्लोटिंग रेट, दैट इज मार्केट बेस्ड रेट, कम ज्यादा फ्लक्चुएशंस होती रहती हैं जैसे इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ेगी घटेगी. एंड वन इज फिक्स्ड रेट. फिक्स्ड रेट जो आप अगर लोन ले रहे हो बैंक से, तो एक फिक्स्ड रेट बैंक फिक्स कर देता है कि हाँ जी हर साल आपने 12% की रेट से आपने लोन की रीपेमेंट करनी है, ठीक है, इंटरेस्ट पे. तो इस तरह से अब आरबीआई ने ये कहा है कि कहीं ना कहीं जो राइट है वो बोरोवर्स को दिया जाएगा कि बोरोवर्स चाहे तो स्विच कर सकते हैं फ्रॉम फ्लोटिंग टू फिक्स एंड फिक्स टू फ्लोटिंग. ठीक है, अब कितनी बारी ये किया ऐसी स्विच की जा सकती है, ठीक है, इट विल डिपेंड ऑन द respective banks, I mean how their respective boards actually of the particular bank allowing this. ठीक है, for how long? So this move is actually aimed to address concerns about loan tenure elongation. ठीक है, कि लोन की जो टर्म है उसको बढ़ाया जा सके या कम किया जा सके. एंड EMI increases when benchmark interest rate rises. सपोज जैसे इन्फ्लेशन को टैकल करने के लिए सरकार के आरबीआई क्या करती है कि रेपो रेट बढ़ा देती है. सो जब आप पॉलिसी रेट्स बढ़ाते हो तो ऑफ कोर्स आपकी EMI पेमेंट जो है वो भी बढ़ जाती है अगर फ्लोटिंग रेट दिस इंटरेस्ट रेट पे बेस्ड है आपकी लोन. ठीक है, तो इस वजह से ताकि कस्टमर्स को इतना नुकसान ना हो, या यू कैन से कि इस बर्डन को कम करने के लिए फ्लोट फिक्स्ड का भी ऑप्शन दिया गया है. Borrower will have the option to switch based on board approved policy drafted by the lending entity, specifying the number of allowable switches during the loan tenure. कि बैंक की पर्टिकुलर बोर्ड, सपोज HDFC है तो उसकी बोर्ड डिसाइड करेगी कितनी बारी ये ना स्विचिंग अलाउ की जा सकती है कस्टमर को और बोरोवर को. सो लेंडर मस्ट ट्रांसपेरेंटली कम्युनिकेट ऑल रेलिवेंट चार्जेस एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कॉस्ट. लेंडर्स जो बैंक है उनको ट्रांसपेरेंसी इसमें बरतनी होगी. साथ में ही बोरोवर्स विल रिसीव क्लियर कम्युनिकेशन अबाउट द impact of switching such as changes in EMI और loan tenure. ठीक है, कि स्विच करने से क्या इन पे इम्पैक्ट होने वाला है. एंड कैन चूज बिटवीन EMI एनहेंसमेंट, टेन्योर एलोंगेशन और प्रीपेमेंट ऑप्शंस एज वेल. कि आप लोन पहले ही पे कर दो. 20 इयर्स की टेन्योर है तो आप सपोज 15 इयर्स में मीट कर जाते हो, सारी लोन के लिए पेमेंट कर दो. नेक्स्ट इज व्हाट इज द हीट इंडेक्स एंड व्हाई इज इंपॉर्टेंट टू मेजर. तो ईरान जो है, इस आर्टिकल का कॉन्टेक्स्ट ये है कि ईरान अभी हीट इंडेक्स जो है, हीट यू कैन से स्पेशली एक्सट्रीम हीट यू कैन से एक्सपीरियंस कर रहा है काफ़ी टाइम से. एंड ईरान की जो कोस्टल एरियाज में टेम्परेचर थी वो ऑलमोस्ट 70 डिग्री सेल्सियस टच कर गई थी. तो इट्स द कॉज ऑफ कंसर्न और यू कैन से द फॉल आउट ऑफ ग्लोबल क्लाइमेट चेंज, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग. So, leading to public holidays being declared due to the unprecedented heat in Iran. The heat index, also known as apparent temperature, remember. So, heat index जो है उसको हम temperature, apparent temperature भी बोल देते हैं, measures how the temperature feels to humans taking into account relative humidity and air temperature. So, humidity के terms में relative and absolute humidity दो तरीके की humidity होती है. तो relative humidity को यहाँ पे लेते हैं. And alongside the air temperature, this index was actually discovered by the Robert Steadman, developed a complex formula in 1979 to calculate the heat index, considering factors like dew point and atmospheric moisture. Okay, what is dew point now? So it is at which the temperature which gas is transformed into a liquid state. जिस टेम्परेचर पे आपकी गैस जो है वो लिक्विड स्टेट में कन्वर्ट हो जाती है, चेंज हो जाती है, वी कॉल इट ड्यू पॉइंट सिंपली. ठीक है, सो मेजरिंग द हीट इंडेक्स इज इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज हाई ह्यूमिडिटी ड्यूरिंग हीट वेव्स कैन लीड टू हीट स्ट्रेस एंड हीट रिलेटेड हेल्थ इश्यूज इन ह्यूमंस, स्ट्रोक, हीट स्ट्रोक एंड ऑल. यू सी कि इसके वजह से भी काफी डेथ्स होती हैं. सो दैट्स व्हाई इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस टू course for the country, and even IMD comes has its different types of alerts. येलो अलर्ट, रेड अलर्ट बेस्ड ऑन द टेम्परेचर्स, ठीक है। तो IMD इंडियन मेट्रोलॉजिकल डिपार्टमेंट कम्स अप विद ओन हीट इंडेक्स, ठीक है। तो जस्ट कॉन्टेक्स्ट आपको पता होना चाहिए। इंडिया कीन ऑन हैविंग क्वाड लीडर्स फॉर रिपब्लिक डे परेड, सो वी आर प्लानिंग की रिपब्लिक डे परेड्स में जो है 4 कंट्रीज हैं, तो एक तो हम ही हैं, तो उसमें जो 3 कंट्रीज हैं US, जापान एंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया, उनके जो लीडर्स हैं ऑफ कोर्स प्रेसिडेंट्स एंड प्राइम मिनिस्टर, सो वो प्रेजेंट हो इंडिया के रिपब्लिक डे पे 26 जनवरी 2024, ठीक है। सो ऐसी प्लानिंग चल रही है, देखते हैं बाकी क्या चलता है। ओके हाई होप्स फॉर क्लाइमेट एंड एनर्जी आउटकम्स एट समिट, G20 समिट एज इंडिया टेक्स लीड। बिल्कुल ठीक बात है कि क्लाइमेट एंड एनर्जी दोनों ही सेक्टर में हम काफ़ी अच्छा कर रहे हैं, ठीक है। तो इसलिए सिंस हम प्रिजाइड कर रहे हैं इस बार की G20 समिट को, तो हाई होप्स हैं इंडिया से एंड फ्रॉम अदर कंट्रीज एज वेल। एट G20 जापान बैक्स इंडिया नॉट चाइना एज ब्रिज टू ग्लोबल साउथ, ठीक है। तो इंडिया जैसा कि काफ़ी बार हमने डिस्कस भी किया कि वांट्स टू बिकम द लीडर ऑफ wants to be the leader of the global south, so जापान ने इसको बैक भी किया एंड जापान एंड चाइना के आपस में रिलेशंस ठीक नहीं चल रहे हैं, तो ऑफ कोर्स दिस माइट बी द रीजन, ऑफ कोर्स दिस इज द रीजन, ठीक है। ओके कंसर्ट ऑफ रेयर इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स प्लान्ड एट प्रेसिडेंट्स डिनर, सो सैटरडे को जो हमारे ऑनरेबल प्रेसिडेंट साहब ने जो प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया हैं, इन्होंने एक डिनर रखा है G20 लीडर्स के लिए, ठीक है। And this will be, and leaders here going to witness a unique musical extravaganza featuring 78 artists who will play some rare Indian instruments such as Sur Bahar, the Jal Tarang and the Rudra Veena, जो शिवजी बजाते थे, ठीक है। So you see across the country the concert Bharat Vadya Darshanam, that is the musical journey of India, being organized by the संगीत नाटक एकेडमी। अभी ये ध्यान रखना कि संगीत नाटक एकेडमी से क्वेश्चन भी पूछा जा सकता है, कैसे? बिकॉज इट इज एन ऑटोनोमस बॉडी अंडर द यूनियन कल्चरल मिनिस्ट्री। सबसे पहले तो यही इंपॉर्टेंट है कि ऑटोनोमस मिनिस्ट्री जो है बॉडी है वो किस मिनिस्ट्री के अंडर है, तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कल्चरल मिनिस्ट्री के अंडर है, ठीक है। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस सम रेयर इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स विच विल बी प्लेड आर कमाइचा यूज्ड बाय द मंगानियार कम्युनिटी ऑफ राजस्थान। सो ये भी एक देखो, एक स्टेटमेंट यहाँ से दे दें, एक स्टेटमेंट यहाँ से दे दें, तो 2 स्टेटमेंट वैसे ही बन गए, क्वेश्चन बन गया। सो कमाइचा पता होना चाहिए, दिस इज यूज्ड बाय द मंगानियार कम्युनिटी ऑफ राजस्थान। नेक्स्ट इज नाल तरंग क्रिएटेड बाय बाबा अलाउद्दीन खान ऑफ मैहर, दैट इज मध्य प्रदेश। एंड लास्ट इज रुद्रा वीणा कंसिडर्ड एज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट एंशिएंट इंस्ट्रूमेंट। सो इन तीनों इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स को यहाँ पे बजाया जाएगा, ठीक है। मोदी एंड बिडेन टू डिस्कस ट्रेड इश्यूज, जेट इंजन, जो कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर जब गए थे US तो उसमें कंक्लूड हुआ था कि जेट इंजन की यहाँ पे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग होगी, एंड ड्रोन डील्स एज वेल। सो दीज आर द एजेंडा ऑन एजेंडा, ठीक है, इश्यूज दैट कुड बी डिस्कस्ड बिटवीन द प्राइम मिनिस्टर एंड प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ US on the sidelines of G20 summit. Okay, center to stop sites from weaving dark patterns to mislead buyers. Now, what exactly the dark center ने अभी एक draft release किया in public for discussion purposes, and that is the purpose is to tackle this problem of dark patterns. So, what exactly is the dark patterns? So, अगर definition की बात करें तो draft guidelines have defined dark patterns as any practices or deceptive design patterns using user interface or user experiences interactions on any platform designed to mislead or trick users to do something they originally did not intend or want to do. जैसे आप देखते हो ना कि किस चीज़ पे आपने एक बार टैप कर दिया, आप कुछ रीड भी कर रहे हो तो हमेशा वो आपके आइज के सामने आ जाता है ना। तो कई बार आप ना चाहते हुए भी ऑर्डर कर जाते हो, ठीक है। सो इट्स अगेन अ काइंड ऑफ मिसलीडिंग एड्स actually. So something they originally did not intend or want to do by subverting or impairing the consumer autonomy, decision making or choice amounting to misleading advertisement or unfair trade practices or violation of consumer rights. तो इतनी बड़ी डेफिनेशन है इसकी डार्क पैटर्न के अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस ड्राफ्ट गाइडलाइंस, ठीक है, बट इजी है, कोई बहुत ज़्यादा टेक्निकल नहीं है। सो व्हाट कुड बी द डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ डार्क पैटर्न्स? The first is false urgency, meaning falsely stating or implying a sense of urgency. Next is basket sneaking, meaning इसमें क्या होता है basket sneaking? It simply means that the inclusion of additional items at the time of checkout without the consent of the user. कि आपने ऑर्डर कुछ और किया, दो तीन चीजें करी, लगा लो कुछ और एक दो आर्टिकल्स ऐड कर दिए. That was basket sneaking. Next is confirm shaming, or using a phrase, video, audio, or any other means to create a sense of fear or shame or ridicule or guilt in the mind of the user. So the dark patterns include forced action. ठीक है, कि आपसे फोर्स करते हैं आपको कि भाई वो करो, आपको करना ही पड़ता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, रिक्वायरिंग यू टू बाय additional goods, subscription trap, or the process of making cancellation of a paid subscription impossible or complex. Next is interface interference, the design element that manipulates the user interface and bait and switch, the practice of advertising a particular outcome based on the user's action. Next is drip pricing, another such practice whereby elements of prices are not revealed upfront and the disguised advertisement and nagging have been defined by the ministry. So all of these are some types of dark patterns. ठीक है, be it your drip pricing, be it your forced action, be it your basket sneaking, be it your false urgency. ठीक है, so all of them, confirm shaming, are the different types of your dark patterns. Okay. So what other news from the world? So of course, at ASEAN summit held in Indonesia, Jakarta, Indonesia has warned against the new conflicts that could take place. For example, interaction between officials from US and China are being closely watched by the world. ठीक है, so that कि कुछ better निकल के आए, इन दोनों के बीच relations improve हो. To control tension that risks flaring new over issues ranging from Taiwan to ties with Moscow. ठीक है, तो ताइवान स्ट्रेट एंड ताइवान, चाइना हमेशा कोशिश करता है अटैक करने की ताइवान पे, बट यूएस इज देयर टू एक्चुअली टेक केयर ऑफ द सिक्योरिटी ऑफ ताइवान. एंड यूएस एंड रशिया के रिलेशंस कैसे चल रहे हैं आपको अच्छे से पता है. ओके, चाइना में बी यूजिंग आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस टू sway US voters, says Microsoft. So China can, interfere in the elections of US president also. Philippines opposes militia vessels in South China Sea. So of course Philippines is against this aggression of China in the South China Sea. Okay. Onions, tomatoes and spices, toss or oats. Okay, so toss, tomato, onion and spices fired up thali cost in August. Of course की जो महंगाई हमें देखने को मिली August month में especially, so that was because of the you can see that cost of vegetarian thali increased by 24% year on year, while a non-vegetarian thali's cost rose by 13% last month. So इस वजह से हमें महंगाई देखने को मिली. हालांकि अब टोमेटो प्राइसेस जो है काफ़ी नॉर्मल हो चुके हैं. ठीक है. हाँ, SBI has offered a card to use across transit modes कि आप सिंगल कार्ड को, it has introduced nation first transit card to facilitate easy digital ticketing, fare payments in metro, buses, ferries and parking through a single card. ठीक है. See, in addition, individuals can also use this RuPay NCMC. जैसे RuPay डेबिट कार्ड देखा होगा आपने, वैसे ही ये RuPay NCMC है, नेशनल कॉमन मोबिलिटी कार्ड, is a prepaid card for making retail and e-commerce payments as well. अब एक ही कार्ड से, SBI कार्ड से आप काफ़ी चीज़ें, मेट्रो में सफ़र भी कर सकते हो, ऑनलाइन प्रोडक्ट्स भी ऑर्डर कर सकते हो एंड सो ऑन, पेमेंट्स भी कर सकते हो. ठीक है, इवन की पार्किंग में भी पेमेंट कर सकते हो. ठीक है, सो टेकिंग केयर ऑफ मल्टीप्लिसिटी ऑफ the things. Okay, finally we are on the sports page. So that's it as far as today's this Hindu analysis is concerned. But before we stop here, let us have a look at questions based on today's discussion. Okay, so these are the questions, two questions. First is, Republic of Korea with a new strategic outlook and along with the US, Japan and Australia is uniquely placed to help India advance its interest in the Indo-Pacific. You need to comment for 10-marker question in 150 words. The second is, false urgency and basket sneaking terms were recently in news are related to whether it's malwares, dark clouds, cloud computing or dark patterns. You need to find the correct answer. Fine. So that's it from my side for the day. If you have any query, you can put the same in the comment section. Until then, take care and keep revising your things. But please do not forget to solve these questions. Fine. Thank you and stay tuned for tomorrow's Hindu analysis. Thank you.